We're now here with Anna Keenan, who's one of the founders of the Climate Justice Fast. She's been fasting. Well, let me have her tell you what she's been up to.
Cool. So basically, I'm part of the Climate Justice Fast, which has been a hunger strike for climate justice. So for the last 42 days, I haven't taken any food. I've drunk only water and had a tiny bit of salt to keep my nervous system functioning, in a form of moral action against the political inaction that we're seeing on climate change, which I think is entirely immoral and really shameful. And it's been a project that hundreds of people around the world have been involved in.
What do you mean hundreds of people have been involved? At what level?
Sure. Well, we've had a core team of fasters. We had 7 fasters begin on the 6th of November, which was the last day of the Barcelona climate talks, the last day of negotiations before COP15 opened. And 4 of them finished their fast after 30 days for health reasons. 3 of us are still going at 42 days. And throughout this time around the world, we've had thousands of people join us in solidarity fasts for a single day, saying that they've been really inspired by what we're doing and that they want to join us. And today is actually the International Day of Fasting. It's called Hunger for Survival, and we didn't organize this. There were some youth who were inspired by what we were doing, and they said, we want to organize something in support. And so today we know that we have over 10,000 people around the world who are going voluntarily without food for 24 hours, having water only during this time. And they're doing it not in support of us, they're doing it in solidarity with all of those people around the world who are currently suffering the effects of climate change the most.
Can you just talk a little bit more? I'll remind our viewers, we got a brief interview because Anna's got to head off to a vigil they're holding in a few minutes across town. So you can post your questions or comments at oneclimate.net or using the Twitter hashtag OneClimate, and we'll try and get in as many of those as we can. But can you just explain a little more clearly how you came to this idea to do this and what you're hoping to achieve by it?
Sure. Basically, I've been a climate change activist for a number of years, and I've written government advisory papers, I've worked for NGOs, I've organized street rallies, I've countless street rallies, I've signed petitions, I've been arrested in civil disobedience against coal. And I feel like all of these forms of activism are what I would call activism as usual. It's expected these days almost. And I felt like I need to take my activism up to another level, because what we're doing to the planet and the political inaction that we are seeing right now is absolutely insane. If you go to a doctor and they tell you you're going to die unless blah, you go, well, I'd better change that. But we're seeing all of this political inertia, which is telling us, no one's reacting to it. And I felt like I needed to take my activism up to a more serious level, and also to a more moral level, to like a heart-driven level. And that's really what a hunger strike or a fast is about. It takes it out of this, political debate. Politicians have heard every debate and every argument before. They know all the arguments. They know what's morally right. And a hunger strike comes from the heart, and it says it's not time to discuss anymore. It's time to actually do what's right. And Copenhagen, I think, is the best opportunity that we've ever had to see that change start to come into effect.
Have you gotten any response from any politicians?
Well, we've definitely presented what we're doing to various EU delegations. The Australian delegation knows we're doing it. The American delegation knows we're doing it. The entire Tuvaluan delegation is actually fasting with us for 24 hours today, which I think is amazing. And then delegates from another 20 to 23 countries are also fasting with us for 24 hours today. And so we are getting, support at that government level. And that we know that we're having some effect. The degree of effect that you have is always quite intangible as an activist, and I think more than anything else we're contributing to cultural change, and we're also contributing to the inspiration of the climate activist movement. I've had so many activist friends say to me, I think what you're doing is inspiring. I was going to leave and take a break after Copenhagen, but your action has shown me, the sort of dedication that people are ready to personally give to the climate movement, and that's encouraging me to to keep going in 2010, and it's giving me, all of this replenishing energy. And that's going to be a big part of what this vigil in an hour's time is about. I'm really excited about that. We're going to have 1,000 youth who are all fasting with us today, holding a candlelight vigil, and we're going to be putting a moral energy into Copenhagen, and we're also going to be replenishing and refocusing ourselves for the year ahead.
Have you had any sort of realizations? What's sort of come to you through this process that maybe you wouldn't have thought of otherwise?
It's been a really complicated process for me, I suppose. The act of fasting itself is something that I think everybody on the planet should do once in their life, especially those from developed nations. Like, most of us have never fasted, gone without food for a day in our lives before, unless we've been like incredibly sick and in hospital. And the act of voluntarily going without food, the act of voluntarily going hungry, is something that does start to shift your psyche a little bit. The first day of fasting that I ever did this year, the thing that I first noticed is how prevalent food is in our society. And it's not good food either. It's over prevalent. Like, you walk for 50 meters down the road and, you can get ice cream, you can get kebabs, you can get cheap and shitty chocolate bars and sugar and stuff that makes you sick, And meanwhile, people on the other side of the world don't have anything to eat. It's not a lack of food that we have in our world, it's an inequitable distribution of it. And realizing the level of overconsumption, the overprevalence of stuff that we have in our society has been, probably the greatest realization of being on the fast. The cause of climate change is not just coal, it's not just methane from cows, it's not just deforestation, it's our overconsumption primarily. And we in the developed world need to reform our habits and our goals in life from being consume, be hedonistic, be pleasurable, have bigger houses, flat screen TVs, better MacBooks, etc. We need to reform those values to be, to know when having enough is enough. And I think that's one of the greatest realizations that I've come to through the fast.